Yeah, we're back. Playing hurt again tonight. Look at that. That's it. My thumb bandage. I'll tell you all about that again. I'll keep complaining and whining, and maybe I'll file a lawsuit against the soup company. We'll see about that. More importantly, we've got Ali Peek Wilbur tonight, always one of our best shows. Edgar Thompson, the hardest working man on the beat, is there tonight with us for a few minutes. And then, of course, David Moulton back in another version of Sweet and Sour, all coming your way tonight. And we're asking the question, can the Gators win another game this year? I don't know. What do you think? Stay tuned. The Buddy Martin Show's next.
It's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye!
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Further evidence why I should probably sue this company right here for the slice that took out of my thumb last night. Cannot seem to get the computer to work today because I can't get this sum dop right. Can't write. There's going to be a lawsuit in there someplace. I got to call to Jeffrey Mellon and see what he has to say about this. So I'm back playing hurt. 4 stitches last night. And we'll continue to whine. Hope you get sympathy. We'll see if we can find some sympathy. Maybe you find some sympathy from this lady right here, who's one of my friends, at least used to be. Let's see if she's still. Ali Peek Wilbur joins us. Ali, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, buddy. How are you doing? Did you say we used to be friends?
Well, I didn't know if you still claim me or not.
I will always claim you.
You're getting pretty highfalutin for me. I don't know. You got big guests coming on and stuff like that. What's the latest on your big star guest you're trying to get?
Should be recording with him on Monday. So
wow. Can we announce that now or have to wait? Should we wait?
Oh, we can. I mean, we can. I mean, obviously, if his schedule changes, it'll change. But we will have Urban Meyer on Monday night.
You and Herbs hanging out. Who knew? My goodness. Yeah, well, you'll be great. Be great. He's good. He's very good. He's for people that he obviously likes you. He does shoot straight, and all the people that call him Urban Liar. I don't want to get into it, but I mean, look, that's the way the coaches coached then. Woody Hayes, they all kind of had half truths. That's how they spoke. It's coach speak. But
coach
anyway,
speak.
Coach speak, yeah. So anyway, so you took a trip to Gainesville, I'm told, right?
Yes, I did. We were up there for the Arkansas game.
Yeah. The Arkansas debacle.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was a heck of a contested game. I want to get your take on it, but that can't happen, Ali. It can't happen.
No. Well, the hard thing is that was Florida's best chance of getting bowl eligible.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean that they won't be bowl eligible. Doesn't mean that we won't maybe take a 5-7 team. Who knows? That's happened before too. But if you're looking at odds, Arkansas was Florida's best chance to win 6.
Yeah.
The positives are this team didn't quit. They were down 14-0 3 minutes into the game. That would have been I almost think understandable if they never quite fought back, because that's a hard thing to come back from. But they did. They continued to fight. Florida's offense found ways to put up points. And quite honestly, I'm not a massive fan of Billy Napier's play calling, but if you put up 36 points, you should win.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like if you can figure out a way to score 36 points, you should win that ball game. So this falls on defense and this falls on special teams. The special teams miscues. Florida doesn't miss the extra point, right? They win this game.
Right.
If they don't have the field goal chaos that happened at the end of regulation, I guarantee you Smack makes that field goal. They win that.
That's so crazy as it was. Rushing on the sideline, it's just scramble like whatever. It looks awful. Reminds me of games I saw lost because they couldn't get a timeout down. And this is a manageable thing. It's a way to manage, and you can't have a situation not spiking the ball and getting the right team out there.
And that's why fans are frustrated, I think. I don't actually think that they're frustrated about a loss necessarily. I think they're frustrated because the Gators are beating the Gators. We've seen multiple games this year get out of hand, and truly, like when you think about it, Kentucky's and Georgia are the only two truly where like we just got pounded, right? The Utah game, even though Utah is a great team, Florida beat Florida a lot in that game. Saturday, Florida beat Florida in that game. And that's why people are frustrating. I was on the sidelines at the end of the game, so I was right down there when the chaos.
You saw it firsthand. How was it like?
Saw it firsthand. I mean, it was nuts. Nobody knew what was going on. And then I made Eric kind of walk me through this, walk me through what's supposed to happen, walk me through what does happen. And what he had said is that basically there's no reason to have a hurry up field goal unless, there's a very specific set of circumstances, which we didn't have there. And he said that basically that play is called Mayday. But he said what they needed to do, spike the ball, is called clock. And so what will normally happen is your offensive coordinator will say, hey, we're running clock here, that into the headset, which will go to the person managing the special teams unit. If Mayday is what they're going to call instead, same thing. Offensive coordinator, head coach, which in our case, same person, would say Mayday into the headset. If for some reason that doesn't happen, let's say Napier gets so caught up in the game, he forgets to say it into the headset. That's when whoever's in charge of special teams is supposed to say, hey, is it clock or is it Mayday? For clarification. Clearly that didn't happen. And Napier's explanation afterwards, honestly, made it look even worse, in my opinion, because he said that one player thought they heard Mayday, and so he ran on the field and everybody followed him. But why is there not a coach directly in front of those players, wrangling them, telling them clock or Mayday? And so you should never be a scenario where your players are left to their own devices and they do what they think they heard or what, they're guessing is supposed to happen. That's just, it made it worse, in my opinion. And it was throwing his players under the bus too at that point, but that falls on him. That backed the field goal up 5 yards, which took it from, I looked up the stats on this. If he had kicked it between 34 and 39 yards, which it would have been a 39-yard field goal, you have like a 71% chance of making it. If you look at the stats for this year's college football, you back it up 5 yards, it drops to like 63% chance. So you're talking about an 8% swing here for a coach who tells us he cares about the numbers, that analytics are what he calls his game by and things like that. But you just decreased your chances of winning by 8% because you couldn't control the chaos on the sidelines, essentially.
Yeah. Well, it's managing the sidelines in critical situations. It's how you win close games, and how you win close games is how you win a conference. You got to win the close games. And I don't know where, I don't say Billy's lost it, but where things started going wrong. I don't know exactly. We were disappointed in Utah, but we thought that's fixable, all those things. Kentucky was certainly one that went sideways completely. Pre-snap penalties. I don't know, along the way, somehow or another, there's an attitude about it, and I like Billy Napier, you too.
Me too.
We wanted to be successful, but when you're too calm and too laid back, as people say, you're not charged up. Now, I will say one thing. He got in the face of some officials this time, which because there were some really not good calls out there, and he got in their face, which and he won one of his arguments. So I don't know. The jury's out on Billy, and I don't know what's going to happen. But here's what I think, and I'll get your reaction. We're at the point where we know now they cannot have, at least odds are they will have no chance of having a winning season. I mean, they have to win 3 games to do that. They're underdogs in all 3. And the point is, now have we reached that point where you say, quit saying, we'll evaluate when we get to the end of the season. No, do it now, because coaches get fired during these kind of things. It happens. So there's that sense of urgency sometimes that I think he lacks.
Yeah, and I think sometimes his players take on that personality. And I would say probably 90% of the time, it's a benefit to not have your head coach be a complete hothead. But that 10% is the in-game environment where you need a fire lit under everybody in the sidelines. And he seems incapable at this point of doing that. And I think he has a lot of respect for his players. I think that he treats them, honestly, probably better than I've seen head coaches treat their players, maybe up close and personal, maybe ever. But I almost think then that's a disadvantage to him because they aren't afraid of the outcome. They're not afraid. If I make a mistake, it's fine. Coach is not going to take my head off about it. He's okay. Like, I'm not going to ride the bench. I'm not going to, he's going to tell me to try harder next time, kind of thing. And that doesn't necessarily work with this age group. Like, you're talking about, older teenagers to young adults. You're talking massive egos. You're talking about an age group that's not great at taking accountability. So factor all of those things in and then tell them oh, it's all right, you'll get them next time. I think that could be hard to see improvement that way. But there's been no change all season. And I think that's the problem. There are some things that could have been done that so far haven't, that I think would pacify the fan base. I mean, after the first time we lost a game due to special teams, had he come out and said, hey, we're going to name this on the field coach special teams for the rest of the year, and then we'll reevaluate at the end of the year, people would have, okay. Instead, our game changer took down his Twitter, took down any public social media he had, but is apparently continuing to do the same thing. It's not helpful. There's just been no real acknowledgement of the problems outside of saying we evaluate, we know we have to be better. And I think that is what fans struggle with. They want you to say, you're right, we suck. We're going to do our best to get better. I'm going to see who I can get to do the job in this building because the people we have aren't doing it right now. Something.
Yeah, we'll have Edgar Thompson in a minute, but it's a little bit like kick the can down the road.
Mm-hmm.
We'll deal with that later. I don't know. Did your mom or dad spank you when you were a child?
Not really. Maybe once or twice. I was actually well behaved.
What was your punishment, though? What would be your punishment? Go to your room?
Honestly, I very rarely got in trouble. But I mean, when I was
little,
probably
the All-American image of the girl comes through all the way back to childhood.
I got grounded in high school once.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I mean,
all right. So here's the deal. I know a lot of moms have used hairbrushes and wooden spoons and what have you, not to beat their children, but to slap on the back, whether you like it or not. The fact is, it says sometimes you need fear.
Right.
You need fear to motivate to get the result you want.
Right.
And when you don't have that fear, I don't think you should coach by fear alone. But there has to be the possibility that you're going to get your butt chewed out or something.
Right.
I don't get that feeling with him. All right. So, all right. So now we're going to have Edgar in a minute. There are 3 games left. 14-point underdogs, LSU, probably 10 or 11 against Missouri, and probably a touchdown at home more against Florida State. They have to win one of those games to have a break-even season and bowl eligible. He could pull it out if he beat FSU at home and fine. But if that doesn't happen, or if they get beat badly by LSU and then lose badly by more than 2 touchdowns to Missouri, it's a problem. And some of the NIL money might dry up. Who knows? What are you hearing about that? And then let's talk about which one of the 3 games, if you had to bet one of the 3, would you take?
Well, I think the powers that be that are in charge of NIL money aren't pleased with the way things are going. I also think that those people aren't average fans. I think they know what's been invested in Billy. They know what the timeline was for him when he was hired. So I don't think they think he's going anywhere. That doesn't mean that they're falling all over themselves to find new money to throw into the pot. But I think at this point, they probably think we're doing our part, right? We've helped you secure this class, which is definitely a partnership between our NIL and Billy Napier and his staff, right? These players aren't jumping on solely because they love Billy's personality. They are also benefiting from these great NIL deals. And so I can see where their frustration would come. I think they just want to see self-reflection and the ability for change. And I think that's what every Gator fan wants to see, right? If Billy says, hey, listen, I'm hiring an offensive coordinator, I'm going down to one O-line coach, and I'm picking up a special teams coordinator, I think it almost restarts the clock for him a tiny bit. If he goes into the offseason saying, like, I mean, I'm the guy, I'm calling the plays, I think that that's going to put him under the gun a little bit. It's going to make the seat very, very hot. And in terms of who we most likely could beat, I'm sure statistically it's Missouri. I would say realistically, I think your best shot's Florida State. That doesn't mean I think it is going to happen, but throw rivalry games, you throw all the records out the window. It's in the swamp. That will be a 12th man for them. I have to think, no matter how slim it is, the best chance to pull out a win is Florida State.
I kind of agree with you, because that's when you need the swamp magic. That's one of those games that is winnable, even though it'll probably be a 2-touchdown difference. And that's where you pull it out at the last minute and save. It's the old landlord rest to the 12 o'clock rent due, and that's the time you got to do it. And that would be a sweet win, and it might keep. But if all the things that Billy's doing now, he's got to give up something. What do you think he should give up?
He's got to give up play calling, I think. One, I don't think he's that good at it. It doesn't mean that his scheme is bad overall. I think what he dreams up during the week for the first series that we run is always great. It always works. Florida generally marches down the field the first drive, but then it kind of peters off from then. I don't feel like he's particularly creative in game. I think he gets stuck in ruts, and I think that's the easiest thing to give up. And maybe he's only calling plays that way because he's wearing so many hats and he'd be a great offensive coordinator. But do you want to be a head coach, or do you want to be an offensive coordinator? Because if it's a head coach, give up the things that are holding you back.
Interesting. I'm not sure he'll give up the play calling. But on the other hand, the offensive coordinator is an offensive line coach in name and because of the salary. But you never see him in the huddles, right? Okay, let's go do this right now. Take a quick break and get back, and we'll hear from Meldon Law. Should be hearing from Edgar Thompson in a moment. Get his thoughts on what's going on in the world of Gator sports. Coming back with Ali Peek Wilbur after this. Jeffrey Meldon. Jeffrey, you do a show where you get asked a lot of questions. I've got one for you right now, okay, regarding how do you know whether your case is being handled right and what to do about it. In medicine, you can get a second opinion if you're not satisfied with the doctor's opinion that they have. And do you have that in law? Can you do that with lawyers?
Yeah, buddy. As a matter of fact, we get quite a few calls from folks that have signed up, particularly with the big box law firms, that they do a hell of a good job of putting ads on TV, but after that, they don't really measure up to the way we try to create a client experience that's outstanding. And we're always willing to review a case and give a second opinion, just like with a doctor, because not all law firms are created equal.
I guess that's the normal thing. Just go to Meldon Law, Google it, and find out, and just give them a call. And like you say, if you come in, you get to see a Meldon. You don't get shuffled off to somebody else. You get to see a Meldon, and that's good to know, because a lot of people don't know how to do that stuff, like me. And maybe you can coach us through. So Meldon Law, they won't back down. They will take your questions about your case if you have a question.
Yes, whether it's a new case or an existing case, give us a call. We'd be glad to go over it with you. There's no charge to review your case with you. And a lot of times it makes good sense just to get a second opinion.
Good stuff from Meldon Law. They don't back down, but they will give you a second opinion. Jeffrey Meldon. All right, thanks, Jeffrey. Back to the Buddy Martin Show. Ali Peek Wilbur with us here. Edgar Thompson in the orange and blue room. Looking for sympathy here, playing hurt, ugly bandage. Ali, I ought to get if I was going to play golf, I'd get 3 strokes on this, wouldn't I? At least, right? 3 strokes.
At least, for sure.
Yeah. And pink, good color for me, right? Couldn't get orange and blue. And then the people who were taking care of me said, "Oh, buddy, good to see you. We enjoy your show. How come you gave me a pink bandage if you did that, right?" So, all right, let's just see what Edgar's got to say, and you and Edgar can chop it up. Edgar, one of the hardest working men in show business. has been known to stir it up a time or two, but thank goodness he's on the front line. They're asking the right questions and doing his job well. Good evening to Edgar Thompson or the Orlando Sentinel. What's up, brother?
Hey, guys, girls.
What's going on?
Allie's a little more generous than I would be. I wouldn't be giving any strokes, buddy.
No? Oh, well, give me a little sympathy at least. Look, I have to work.
What happened? What happened? Oh,
Opening a can of chicken noodle soup, and that got me right there.
Yeah, you're pretty old school eating that.
Well, I was actually getting the broth for my fiance. It was sick. That's why I was opening it. And anyway, I think I got a lawsuit. If they can get soup at McDonald's for hot coffee, this puts me out of work. I can't do my job. I think I'll ask Jeffrey Melton. Maybe he'll figure it out.
That actually happened in Albuquerque when I was living out there.
Yeah. Oh, coffee case.
It was like an 85-year-old woman who set a cup of boiling hot coffee in between her thighs and starts going out the drive-through. I mean, she got $2.8 million.
Oh, this was McDonald's. I remember this.
Yeah.
That's for a 5 right there. I mean, I couldn't do my column today. Look, I can't work.
All right, well, make friends work finally.
He does that, I will say. He grinds it out. Edgar, we're kind of going through the obvious scenarios today.
Yeah. Well, Allie's been on a rant on special teams. I'm sure I missed.
Yes.
She's crushing it, man. She's ready to take some names and kick some butt here. But here's the thing: she was on the sideline when all that stuff happened, saw it firsthand. Ali, what kind of show was it? You said it was. Tell Edgar the story about what
I'm not very centered here. Let me get centered. Right. I don't know what
you need to get. That's so.
All right,
here you go. Nice.
I can't figure it out. I like half my face.
Okay, there we go. All centered now. Ali, tell him the story of what happened on the side.
Well, I saw a picture. You tweeted maybe a picture of Eric, didn't you? Oh, she's frozen. She's frozen.
She is frozen.
So, buddy, just to tell you this, while Allie's being unfrozen, I was on the phone just now with my mother.
Yeah.
She's wondering what the heck happened at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
My 82-year-old mother is, hon, I mean, I just don't know that much, but I'd never seen anything like it.
Yeah,
so we're going to the club. Nobody else had either.
Yeah, especially in Game 9. Ali says she's trying to jump back in. All right, Ali, we hear you. Just go ahead and keep trying. Edgar, would you repeat what you saw there, and how shocking was it? And were you satisfied with Billy's answers?
Well, we're scrambling so hard on deadline. You're like, you look up, you kind of catch a sense of what's going on. So you're not sitting there watching the entire thing unfolding like maybe a fan, because you really are like, I'm thinking I'm writing Trace Mack with the game winner, bowl eligibility, all that. You're ready to roll. And then you're kind of trying to get your bearings, and you look down and like 20 guys out on the field. So there you are. So
sorry guys, I don't know what happened.
Well, so you can take us through it, but I was just telling Buddy that I was talking to my mother, 82-year-old mom, while I was running kind of a couple minutes behind, and she's like, Sugar, I don't know enough, but I've never seen anything like what happened at the end of the game, though. So my mom, who's become a big Gators fan over the last 20 years that I've been here, is she doesn't know what's going on either. So explain. If you can.
Could she be available to be a special teams coach? She might be able to figure it out. I bet she can count.
She won't be worse for sure.
Oh my God! I tell you, she's having tough internet issues.
She is. And usually it's pretty clear.
Has it been going on all night?
No, first time. It's just happening on her end. And
all right. So here, anyway. So Billy, he came in and did his. So I was talking to Mark Long, because we're going to do a podcast tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And one of the points I'm going to make is, this is like a relationship, like truly. with Billy and with all the subjects you cover. You did this, I think you started Florida Day the year I was born, 1966. So you've been doing this a long time. And it is a relationship, especially with the main subject, which is Billy for me, my main person. I cover a lot of different things, but he's number one. And
how many hours a week do you spend with him? I mean, you probably spend more time talking to him than any other reporter.
Well, I don't know. He doesn't give a ton of time, but you're around him, you're thinking about him, you're strategizing how to, navigate the relationship, and then the little snippets you do get, particularly after a loss, even after a win. Like I think we talked about, like after the South Carolina game, I was just trying to get a little emotion, and he's telling me I could ask a better question. And so there's always some little kind of irritation.
You should say you could coach a better game too.
Well, there's irritation from one side to the other sometimes, and feelings hurt or expectations not met. Whatever it is, it's like a full-on relationship. Billy was fantastic today. He was great on the SEC teleconference. He was very good tonight, engaged, banner, joked around. And even at the very beginning, I've made a comment about something. He's like, someone was like, well, ask more LSU questions today. And he's like, look, you guys got a tough job. I got a tough job. We both have tough jobs. Now, he gets it, and that's kind of his little olive branch to say, hey, I don't take it personally.
Came from. I have no idea. There's Grimace.
Was
There's
that
something
you
knowledge, yeah. All right, that was. I don't know, but she's back now. We had a little bit of Gator baseball from last year. Sorry,
so
about
Al, real quick, just to finish, I was telling Buddy how this whole Billy dynamic is like a relationship. There's expectations on each side, met or not, irritations. Take something personal either way. And so it is kind of something you navigate. And tonight, Billy was great. And he was great on the SEC teleconference. And I think he comes out of these losses, and he's so competitive, understandably, which he should be. And you don't get these jobs if you're not. And he's irritated, so there's a little pushback, dismissiveness of questions, because we obviously don't know every element of what we're even asking, because we don't know what's really. And so tonight he was great. And he was engaged and even said, hey, you guys got a tough job. I got a tough job. We both have tough jobs. So it's all copacetic now, but we're on this roller coaster, which is why fans probably think, oh, God, we're getting after Billy or whatever. We don't want Billy to fail. You think I want to cover my 7th coaching search? You think I really want to learn a new coach? And he's a good, nice guy with a great demeanor. So, but you'll get to this now. There's a lot of things that Billy's going to have to address this off season in terms of just fundamental changes with his approach and with and some changes to his staff, clearly.
Yeah. And I don't envy you guys having to sit in there, and I don't envy him having to ask the questions or get asked the questions either. But also that's why we pay him the big bucks, is to answer. And I think sometimes he gets defensive because he doesn't want to throw his players under the bus, which I do fully appreciate. But sometimes it just comes across like he has no idea what we're referring to when these things are asked. And I think that's irritating to fans because they want him to be like, you're right, we sucked. I know you hated it. I hate it too. We don't want to lose. And instead, the question that Nick asked for special teams, and he said well, which part? I mean, which part? The part that lost us the damn game, which part? This is, that's an insult to everybody's intelligence to answer in that way. But I almost feel like he needs a little bit of media training too. Spurrier would have had some kind of, joke that he threw out there. It was my fault. I should never have let those guys put on the uniform. I don't know. He would have made light of the situation. I don't know, read the room better, I guess, maybe.
Well, he
can be a little tone. He's a little tone deaf. My first question was about preaching patience to fans.
Yeah.
If you heard that one.
We heard
and,
it.
And I get where he's
tonight,
coming.
Yeah.
Well, I get where he's coming from. I'm not here to preach patience to fans. My job's to coach those guys. But you are in this position because of fans. The SEC is in this position because of the loyalty of fans for decades. $3 billion contract, these massive facilities, these huge salaries, these huge staffs, all the spoils is because of the fans on a big level who make sacrifices, stand in lines, you squeeze themselves in, fight for bathrooms, concessions, overpriced, buy stuff. And people are wearing black jerseys, people buying their swag. So I just thought he kind of missed there. It was a strikeout.
He was. He did miss. That would have been the perfect opportunity to say, when I got hired, one of the things that I told this administration is I wanted to build it from the ground up, and it was going to take time. It's the same thing I tell recruits, and it's the same thing that I'm going to say to fans too. If you give me the time to build it, I promise you it's going to be worth the wait. And that's it. And he did say when he got hired, I'm going to build this the right way and it's going to be slow and steady. So just refer back to that.
Yeah.
Well, just to insert one thing, Edgar didn't hear us talking about this earlier tonight, where we brought up the issue of patience, your question, number one. And in the situation he's in right now where it's not working, he's 11-11 and probably going to wind up 11-14, more than likely, and a losing season. And when you ask a softball question, which is what it was, and he could answer just like Ali just did. Look, I know you're disappointed. We told you it'd take a while. We're trying to get there. We're getting better. I don't get the results on the scoreboard. It's an easy way to do that. Like it's not my job to preach patience. Yes, it is your job to preach patience because guys get fired in streaks like this. And it's too late when you say, I'm going to kick the can down the road and we'll talk about that. No, talk about it now because it's a now problem. I think that's the one thing I really like Billy a lot. I think he's a good coach, but two things keep coming up. A, he's doing too many things. And secondly, he's got to understand he can't not have a sense of urgency. So those are the factors that Ali and I were talking about earlier.
Do you know how much goodwill he could buy if he just said, I'm not going to be the one calling the plays next year? He's the offensive coordinator, so he doesn't actually have to fire anybody. He doesn't have to name a successor. But if you literally just said to fans, listen, it's not going to be me next year. We've already told our recruits that. The search is on. We're going to do our best to hire somebody that fits in with our culture, that's going to lead these men, and we're going to do great things. But we know the best available candidates are not going to be interested in taking interviews until the season's over. Nobody would ask that question anymore. Fans wouldn't wonder about the offense or worry about it, but it's no skin off of anybody's back because you're not actually firing anybody. You are the OC.
I agree, but then the whole theme's going to be who's he going to hire? Well, there'll be questions.
But people are going to talk about that anyway.
Well, they are. You're right. But just because I might not continue to pursue that line of questioning doesn't mean everyone in the room will go there. Because if he says that, I could live with not talking about it till after Florida State. But will everyone in the room and will just become
the fans? Well, then NIL people. Ali knows stuff she's not telling about. She knows things in people about the money, not your everyday, ordinary sources that you and I deal with, Edgar. And there's stuff going on out there right now which is not very pretty. And
I hear.
And so I don't think that can be reported as hard fact, but she knows people and she talks to them. And there's a major concern among the people who have the money about what the Billy can deliver now. That's not a good thing to have.
Well, I hear, like someone told me after the game that I talked to a lot, he's like, people are taking, with the checks, they're taking a wait and see attitude at this point. There's not going to just be blind faith investment at this point.
Yeah.
Well, because I
wouldn't either.
Feel like they're doing their part, right? Like they're writing their checks, they're talking to recruits, they're talking to current players and continuing to pay them. So they want to see a payoff. And Billy just has to be susceptible to change, open to change. It doesn't even have to be successful right off the bat. It just has to be that he's willing to adapt. And currently, we're not seeing that. And I think that's what's causing people to kind of bristle a little bit at the things that he says and does, because it feels like he doesn't see it, even though I'm sure that's not really the case. That is the way that his wait and see approach makes people feel.
Bunker mentality rarely comes across well to the public, but it might be the way you have to go. I can't discern really. I mean, I've been down this road so many times with coaches, and you start to see it coming unglued. I wasn't here for the end of Urban, but was definitely here for the end of the other eras. And this doesn't feel like we're there yet.
No, we shouldn't be there yet.
Well, no, but not the end. But I mean that we're even heading to the end. I wrote something today that ran how much time's fair. And I think I said this on the show last time, but in brief, I said Georgia Week 2025, if they haven't closed the gap, if they're not like kind of in the playoff 12 team at the time, will be 12 teams conversation.
Yep.
At that point, where there's not some traction moving in that direction strongly, then you got to say, okay, is this really going the right person at that point? And then he still might get one more year after that.
I think it will be based on what changes he's willing to make this offseason. If you make changes, essentially the clock starts over, right? You hire an offensive coordinator. Let's say you get a new O-line coach and a special teams coach. You're essentially back down to zero now. You've got 3 years from that point on. Now, you don't make any changes this offseason, and I think your seat is boiling hot for the hardest schedule that Florida's ever played, and that's not a good situation to put yourself in.
Let's bring in the other half of this sweet and sour operation. We've got the sweet, now we're going for the sour. David Moulton is awake. He barely, but he's awake, tolerating us, and he joins the program with Edgar now. Good evening to you, David. I want to get you right into the fray. Let's talk about Edgar now. Never mind 2025. Now, what Gator fans want to know is, can they win any more games? And the answers are probably not. So I'm going to restart this question again with David and go around the horn. Is that Can Florida win one of the 3 games? And if so, which one? David, good evening to you.
Well, of course they can win, one of these games. They get Missouri in a good spot. They get Missouri after they've just played Georgia and Tennessee in back-to-back weeks. I mean, I think, if this, body punches, and they'll probably be, and I don't know if Missouri physically is all that more imposing than Florida, quite frankly. So, I think Florida gets Missouri in a good spot, and all the pressure in the world is going to be on Florida State. So, the reason why I think Florida has a chance, even though I'm down on them right now, is because most every setback is being caused by them. Okay? I mean, Georgia's better, but everybody else, they were on the field with talent-wise, but they just make too many damn mistakes. And so it's kind of like a figure skater. Can Florida give their fans one clean skate? Just one clean skate. Can they do that? A good 6, like even against Tennessee, they played like a terrific quarter and a half, and then they just kind of sat on it. It was a nice win, but even that performance was, 25 to 40 minutes worth. I mean, do they have 60 good minutes in them? No turnovers, a penalty a quarter, no pre-snap penalties, for blankety blank sakes. Come on. Got to be kidding me at this time of the year. To constantly not have 11 guys on the field on special teams. I mean, honestly, that's the stuff. It's like, come on. At some point, and that's all on coaching. I'm sorry. That's all on coaching. You can't play one clean game from start to finish. No. You got to wear that as a staff. Absolutely, positively, you got to wear that. And that's what I'm waiting for from Florida. They got 3 opportunities against ranked teams here. Do they have one clean skate in them? That's all I'm looking for. Give me one.
Yeah, all right, David, and which game would you pick for them if you said they had the best chance of winning Florida State?
Well, Florida State's got a lot better players than they do.
Okay, well then
I'd rather take if I had
Missouri?
to ask for a clean slate, I'd ask for it at Columbia, Missouri. I really would.
All right. Over to Edgar. Edgar, pick one of the 3 if you think they have the best chance to win. Those underdog in all 3. They got to win one to get to 500, get to a bowl. Who do you think it'll be?
Yeah, I was trying to look up famous falls and the one in the skating. Michelle Kwan had a big years ago. But yeah, I would love to see them win one of these games just because, I mean, I don't know what I'm going to be doing after Thanksgiving. I need something to write about, man.
Yeah.
My editors, what do you got this week? Basketball, sure, but we need some more football to write about. No, but truly, I think this week, it's going to be a mega shootout if they have a chance. Trevor or Montrell said they're going to have to score at least 42. That's always the goal, 42 points. They said, well, you guys haven't hit that yet in the SEC. Come close. But he's like, we're going to need 42 at least to win this game. They got it in them, I think. The offense is coming along. Trevor better touch the ball and Trey Wilson a lot. Those 2 need 50% of the touches roughly. I think they need to touch it a lot and maybe open things up a little more for Ricky too that way. Missouri, I don't know, man. Cold weather game at night. That's the one. That's a tricky one. But Missouri is probably the most beatable team in terms of the talent, maybe. I don't know their lineup quite as well, but LSU's stacked on offense. It's stacked. It's ridiculous. And Florida State at home, you do get the swamp behind you. And Florida State has shown some road, hasn't looked the same team on the road. Pitt 24/7.
Well, I will say against Pitt, their top 4 receivers didn't make the trip in that game. They played that game.
Oh, is that true? See, I didn't
I mean,
even know that. But Boston College.
But there's no doubt. They're not as good on the road as they are at Doak.
Well, Boston College. That was after the big win, and maybe it was a letdown.
Yep.
So, but okay, that's fair. So, point being, they got shots in all of them. They can win any of those games. I'd be shocked if they win more than one of them. Things are going to have to fall in place. It's just got to be more consistency. You saw them fall behind 14-0 quickly. They can't be doing that on the road, first of all, okay? Or to Florida State at home and think they're going to come back again. But then they go boom, boom, score, and then 5 straight. I'm sure Ali enjoyed it. They punted 5 straight times, but she was the only one, her and Nick Delatorre, who loves punting. But other than that, nobody wanted to see Jeremy Crawshaw, So they just don't have the consistency. So as David said, consistency, cleaner operation. Certainly they can beat any of these teams because the teams are flawed that they're going to play. Some less than others. But LSU's defense, I was trying to look it up and I kind of got lost in the weeds here. But in terms of yards allowed per play, they're allowing 6.5 yards per play. It isn't like this is a good defense at all. LSU is allowing, here, let me tell you guys this, and I'm going to shut up, Allie. All right, here we go. Yards per play, LSU 6.24. It's second to last in the SEC. Florida's 6th, though, which ain't great. And I will say one thing about Florida, too. They are giving up 13 plays of 40 yards or longer in the pass game. Next to South Carolina at 7 in SEC play. And LSU is not the team you want to be going in with that kind of a secondary.
All right, now here's the stat for Allie. Against Arkansas, Florida punted on 5 of the 6 drives that Trey Wilson did not touch the ball. Amazing stat there.
I mean, so it seems like there's a recipe for success there. It's just whether or not we follow them. And I think that's part of the gripe about Napier as well. That's like, oh, we've got a little bit of success here. Okay, we won't see those players for another quarter and a half. And like, that makes it hard to compute. But these are 3 hard games, and exactly like Edgar said, LSU has a great offense. They're going to score points. I bet 42 is an underestimation of how many points Florida's going to have to score to beat LSU, if we're being truthful. Like, if Florida wins, it's because they scored 60, is probably of a more accurate estimate. It will be a track meet if Florida has a chance. LSU's defense is terrible, but so is Florida's. And playing at Baton Rouge at night, that stadium is, it's my favorite stadium in the country to go to outside of the Swamp. It is like nothing else anybody, if you haven't been there, it's like nothing else in college football, in my opinion. That's a hard environment. You don't play well on the road. I'm going to find it really hard to imagine we put it together on the road in Baton Rouge. Then you talk about Missouri. Florida has, since Missouri joined the SEC, played terrible in Columbia. At least it's not a noon kickoff, so we don't have that against us, but it's a night game. It's going to be cold. It's incredibly windy in that stadium. I mean, they can get 40-mile-an-hour gusts in there. Doesn't bode well for us. I think statistically, Missouri is probably the team Florida will have the best chance of beating. But I don't know that I love the way Florida matches up against them. And as I told Buddy before the rest of you guys joined us, I have got to think if Florida beats one of the 3, it's Florida State. And it doesn't mean I think it's likely, because I don't. But I think with rivalry games, you can kind of throw record out the window. You can kind of throw talent disparities out the window. It's in the Swamp. Florida plays a lot better at home. It would be spoiler for Florida State's season, potentially. That's kind of fun. So if there's a win to pull out there, maybe it's Florida State.
Okay, here's a couple of notes. Cam Jackson and Tyreek Sapp are back for LSU, Edgar, as you know, which is only helpful. Here's a little note. Apparently, Jaden Daniels worked out pretty well. Things went well today, so it looked like we'll probably
he's going to play.
Yeah.
Allie's answer was outstanding. David's was very good. Mine was weak. But I will say, no, hers was a good breakdown, because I do think the one thing she brought up that I like is the Tiger Stadium factor. Since 2000, I put this in my story today, they're 93-11 at night there. And I have a feeling that probably half those 11 losses are Alabama. So,
probably.
Right? So they don't lose at home at night to just anybody. I've been there for the Antonio Callaway game. That was an incredible game in 15. They lost. The incredible 2019 one where Trask went head-to-head, toe-to-toe with Burrow to the late, kind of a mid-fourth quarter pick off his back foot. That was probably Dan Mullen's best play calling game he ever had. It was such a good game. And they played great in both those games and didn't win either of those. And I'm not expecting the team to play like those. So those teams were better teams. I mean, that 15 team had a great defense, and that 2019 team had a great offense. This team doesn't have a great anything, and it's playing a lot of young guys. And this is going to be a daunting environment for 18, 19-year-old first time in Tiger Stadium.
I almost got crushed to death at Tiger Stadium one time. I got it there when the Tiger Walk was going on the wrong side of it, and people just kept coming and coming and coming. I was literally up against the wall there, and myself and another writer who I don't know, we banged on the door to get in, just a regular door, and some guy came to the door and cracked it open and said, "We're getting crushed out. Can you let us through here?" And he closed the door, so he'll never come back. He came back, actually let us through, went through the LSU locker room to get out of there and to get up to it was a frightening experience, I'm telling you. There were 80,000 people outside the stadium that night, outside the stadium. Crazy, man, I'm telling you, it's nuts. It's good, but it's dangerous. All right, we're going to go old school here for the last segment, guys. If you can hang with me for a second. This, Ali, you'll like one of these. I talked last week, this week to Shane Matthews about basketball and Todd Golden, all right? And people are throwing out the stuff, the nicknames for his era, and say, "Oh, the golden era, it's perfect, golden era." I said, no, the golden era is terrible, and Ali knows why.
Mm-hmm.
And Shane said, it doesn't matter. Nobody remembers that. I said, Shane, just because it didn't happen while you were alive, it happened. It was the worst, darkest period of Florida football in history. And you want to name the basketball program after that the golden era? Ali, what does it mean to you?
I mean, I know they didn't win a whole lot of games, but the golden era to me is our what our entire program is built on. It's a group of men who truly, until the day that they died, stayed a part of each other's lives. I mean, the golden era Gators
Scotty
are why
Scotty Peek was one of them, right?
he was. Yeah.
And that team lost, I think, 14 in a row, I believe. Some of them were World War II veterans. They were horrible. Yeah. Bear Wolf was the coach. They fired him and hired Bob Woodruff. It was a dark. I knew a lot of those guys: Jimmy Kynes, Fred Bonsioka, and so on and so forth. They were proud of it, but it was definitely a dark time in Florida football. So basketball can't have the term golden era. Okay, all right, all right. Now here's one I'm sure David and Edgar are going to hate, and taking all the politics out of it. Today I saw several people, and this is self-serving to me. I know it sounds that way, but there's a movement going on to bring back the chant Gator Bait. We all know the reason they said they dismissed it. I'm not sure that never would be proven, but it mattered a lot to people in that era because I was one of the kids who went to the stadium and heard them cheer Gator Bait when the team came on the field. Bad idea, good idea, Ali. Bring it back.
I mean, listen, I know that when we sat in the stands and chanted it, we had no idea that there was any sort of nefarious history to it at all. I also don't know that it actually ever offended anybody because even when it was canceled, so to speak, there was never people coming forward saying like, oh, thank goodness we don't do this anymore. Yeah. I did notice that we had some move back, you suck.
Yeah, how about that?
On Saturday. So I was kind of wondering how that came to be because the band was definitely playing it. It definitely wasn't just some random fans shouting it. So I don't know. Maybe we're going retro on all of our chants at this point.
Well, these two guys, they sit up in the ivory tower. They don't have to deal with that, deal with the fans. And in reality, they sit back up drinking Cokes and eating bonbons. Then they're not aware of what's happening downstairs. So, David, go ahead and weigh in on it.
I don't know why it was canceled in the first place. If it had a nefarious meaning, sometime the way it was being used afterwards was not in that way. I mean, we all know what the meaning behind it was, which was you were entering the swamp, you were taking on the Gators, we're going to eat you. Okay, yeah. That's you enter the swamp, you don't get out. That's what Gator Bait is. I don't know how anybody, quite frankly, with using any morsel of common sense could come to a different meaning.
Do we know? Is LSU, did Tiger Bait get canceled?
I don't think anything in Baton Rouge, Louisiana has ever been canceled.
That's probably.
Well, all right. So, Edgar, you get a little more heat on this subject, I know, from your editors, but what's your take on the whole cancellation? And will the new president bring it back? Is what I'm hearing from some people he might.
I mean, that's interesting. I hadn't heard a word about it. I think it'll create an uproar and an unnecessary distraction just because if the times were, people are looking to be offended. Now, I'm going to actually use this as a chance to shamelessly promote a story I just wrote that I don't know if the three of you guys happen to see on Don Gaffney. Did you guys happen to see the story?
I did not see that. I'd like to. Could you give us a free email, maybe?
Well, it is actually, it's not behind the paywall, but I'd be happy to PDF you guys the story if you want it.
Yeah, love to see it.
If you want it that way. But so anyway, Don Gaffney 50 years ago, Scott Carter wrote about it Friday, and I was a little perturbed because I'm sitting in Doug Dickey's house on September 21st, 2 days for the Charlotte game, talking to him. I'd been over there twice. This is my second time. We actually had lunch. It was old school. We had chicken salad and gherkins and olives and like a very old school kind of lunch and iced tea. It was very nice. And Don and Coach Dickey and Doug Dickey's wife and Don's wife, and they're just nice people. I really like Don. So we're having this nice lunch, and we finished this long interview with Coach Dickey, and he looks at me and goes, by the way, Edgar, just to let you know, I called Scott Strickland to tell him you were coming over to do this story. And I'm like, oh, you did? I'm like thinking, what are you thinking? But he said, I think, it's only the right thing to do. And I'm like, all right. So anyway, we photographed those guys on Saturday. Wayne Fields, Jimmy DuBose, Don Gaffney, and Willie Jackson Sr. came to the corner at University and 13th because they didn't set up their tailgate that we were going to photograph. So I was very disappointed. Don drove all the way from Jacksonville. He wasn't even going to the game.
Wow.
To do this. He's such a sweet guy.
Terrific player, too.
This story's gotten a tremendous amount of positive feedback. It just tells you about the whole era of that, what these guys had to overcome. I mean, they were kind of pioneers, or they were. And my nitpick is, why wasn't Don Gaffney honored on the field on Saturday? I don't understand that. It's like, that would have been such a great thing to do and deserved. And
do you think
I just don't really get that.
There?
Well, I mean, they knew that it would, the event, they knew it, the anniversary, because Scott had written about it, Scott Carter.
Yeah. Well, so I know,
I don't know.
With the players that they honored this past Saturday, because Eric was one of them, it was truly the guys that had a sideline pass, like had requested a sideline pass. They told them when they picked up their sideline pass, hey, all of you guys come to the field at halftime and we're going to announce your names. And it was literally just the guys that had submitted a request for a sideline pass. So maybe there was probably some miscommunication with whoever did the sideline passes, not realizing he was coming. But he
didn't come. He didn't come. He came over to do the photo and went back.
Right. But what I'm saying is maybe the person that does the sideline passes could have invited him.
Yeah, it would have just been nice to honor, but I really invested hard into this story. I really enjoyed it. I think it's a good history lesson, and you have all the, family lineage with the program, so you should enjoy it. But it was just a good story to tell. And Gator bait, I guess, like bringing it full circle, if it offends people, why do it? And maybe people are too easily offended in this day and age, but to revive it, after basically getting rid of it for whatever reasons, even if they were a little bit contrived, if you're offending people, what's the point? And I offend a lot of people with stuff I say and being abrupt and things like that. No, I mean, truly. And it's like, nobody needs to have their feelings hurt.
I just got mine.
If it does.
Hey, all right. So listen, real quick. I'm going to ask you to do this. I'm going to read this. I'd like a final thought from each one of you. Where do we go from here? What's the next thing that has to be fixed with Florida football as of today, not when the season's over? Titan MRI is worth a short drive to Gainesville. No insurance is no problem. You can pay with cash or card with same-day scheduling available. Start feeling better today because Titan MRI is North Central Florida's premier independent MRI facility. Come see why hundreds of patients are visiting our Gainesville location for Ocala, Marion County, and the villages. That's TitanMRI.com. Final thoughts, David, on where does Florida go from here?
Well, if I was Scott Strickland, I would put my stake in the ground. I would say, listen, we need to get rid of the noise. Okay, he's not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. And not only is he not going anywhere next year, he's not going anywhere in 2025. Okay, we gave him the contract we gave him because we knew it would take at least 4 years to do it the way we decided to do it, not the quick fix way. To build the foundation. And listen, and Scott should say, and I haven't done him any favors with his schedule. Okay. We could have blown up the schedule and I could have scheduled wins. And we haven't done that, quite frankly. And they do that at other places, and we didn't do that. Okay. And so we're not going anywhere. All right. And then, quite frankly, let the money people come after them and get rid of them. Okay. But I really think that get rid of the noise in the system, that Strickland and Napier have to go, listen, we're 2 years into a minimum 4-year plan. Okay. Minimum 4-year plan. And by the way, if we go 5-7, you know who went 5-7 in 2021? Florida State. Okay? So take a deep breath, people. Got it? All right. Urban inherited 6-6 at Ohio State and won a national title 2 years later. Take a deep breath. And we need 4 years minimum. And if you're not on board, you got two choices. Stay home with your money, okay, or come after us and get rid of us. But that's it. All right? Enough. That's what I would do. I'd probably
David Moulton, weighing in as he does every morning on Miller and Moulton. You can hear him in several locations, including Gainesville.
But I'm just worried, and you guys know a lot more people than I do, and you're a lot closer to it. But there's not one person that I know with this much importance and involvement in Florida athletics that is behind Billy Napier. They're tolerating Billy Napier through gritted teeth. And I'm worried 3 more losses and a 5-7 season with a 5-game losing streak, they're not going to grit their teeth. That's my big fear. That I agree with you, Edgar and Ali. Today, you don't feel that he's done. 2.5 weeks from now, I think it's going to feel differently. That's all. That's my fear. That's a long time if you put 3 more L's on the board.
All right, Edgar, is Armageddon here?
Well, Ali can go before me.
All right.
I think for the team, I would say control what you can control, right? You can't upgrade your talent overnight. You can't get a new play caller overnight. You can put the right number of men on the field. You can play calls or call plays that are designed for the personnel you have, not the personnel you want. You can wrap up. You can, there are things that you can do. And so that even if you lose these next 3 games, you don't lose it in a way that is so infuriating to fans. Part of the problem is not the L's, it's the way they happened this season. Florida beat Florida more times than not. And that's what people want to see change. I would tell fans too, if you switch coaches every 2 to 3 years, you devalue this job. At a certain point, nobody wants it, because if it is such a rebuild, why is it possible in 2 to 3 years? It can't be that Dan Mullen so destroyed this program that it requires a total rebuild and that you expect him to win in year 2. Both of those things can't be true. So if you've decided that you should fire a coach who took you to a New Year's Six Bowl 3 out of his 4 seasons at Florida, and that was worth destroying because it had such a crappy foundation, give time for the good foundation to be built and go from there. But Napier's got to help himself out. He's got to do better in his press conferences. He's got to control the chaos on the sidelines. He's got to make sure the right number of men are on the field. There are controllables that are not being handled, and he would buy goodwill with fans if he could fix them.
Great stuff from Ali Peek Wilbur. You can hear her podcast, A Peek Inside the Gators, every week. And don't miss it. All right, Edgar, bring it home. Orlando Sentinel, Edgar Harshberg, Command, show me go.
Yeah, I mean, those 2 answers were phenomenal. I don't think Scott wants to come out and give a vote of confidence, because when he does that, it starts pointing to a problem. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I don't know how secure Scott's feeling. I mean, he can't say he's not going anywhere. He doesn't know. I mean, maybe he does. Maybe Ben Sass has pulled him aside and said, hey, man, you're good. Nothing to worry about. I don't know that that's happened. Maybe it has. I don't know that you want to draw attention to it. Dan Mullen, I think, gets thrown under the bus a bit, but I will say that when you do look at the 2019-20 recruiting classes, 1 4-star offensive lineman, 1 defensive tackle that panned out of 4, no inside linebackers. That is a big part of what Billy's stuck rebuilding. And they did miss in the portal on some O-linemen and some things for sure. The margins are very thin. And so when they're thin, to you guys' points, you can't be screwing up like these opportunities. And maybe it's having some different people involved with special teams, for example. He talks about quality controlling everything all the time. And I'm not seeing it. So you got to get that straight. You cannot make those operational mistakes these next 3 weeks. The other thing I'd like to see, and I mentioned it to Trevor today, I thought when he caught that pass out at the sideline, Montrell Johnson must have been in the game because he split out from the start. Maybe they went empty. I didn't notice. So I said, hey, you and Montrell finally got on the field together. He goes, no, we didn't. I said, oh, my bad. I'd like to see something like that. I'd like to see a little innovativeness.
Yeah.
Dan Mullen would do it, man. Dan Mullen with this crew would find ways to capitalize. There are playmakers on this team. We're seeing them. Boardingham, Trey, Pearsall, Trevor, Montrell. That's a lot of pieces. Hayden Hansen even. And there's probably a couple other guys. Maybe Andy Jean. I don't think Andy Jean was on their injury report this week finally. So I don't know. Find some ways to, what was the expression? Was Bum Phillips on Don Shula? He can take his and beat
you're to be his.
Yeah, you got to outmaneuver teams that have a talent advantage. And I don't see enough of that, to Ali's point. Like, you can't just run what you want to run. Is he making these adjustments? I don't know. I mean, we're talking about him going into Tiger Stadium and winning and having a clean skate. I mean, I have no evidence through 9 games to think that's going to happen. But we'll see.
Great stuff, Edgar Thompson, who's the hardest working man on the beat out there. And by the way, I'll leave you guys this thought. I'll ask you this question. How many of the 90 analysts can you name, or a coach working for Billy right now? Isn't that bigger than the travel squad? And also, how many of Nick Saban's analysts can you name? That was posed to me this week. I can only maybe name one analyst. I can name 4 or 5.
Probably for a bad reason that you can name him.
Yeah. I mean,
we could name a million that coached for Nick Saban because they went through the Nick Saban car wash and came out squeaky clean and are now head coaches elsewhere.
That's right.
I think Todd Grantham and Charlie Strong are there, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
I think Strong is for sure.
The guy's coaching at Ole Miss was there too, but he was the coach. Okay, guys, great job. Great stuff. David, Edgar, Ali, as always, thank you very much. Hope to see you guys again soon. Edgar and David, you and Sweet and Sour will be back next week. We'll work on a time change next week. David, you'll be happy.
All righty then.
Get some rest. Thank you.
Take
David
care.
Moulton.
Thanks, guys.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it very much. Great job. I'm trying to see if I can get my thumb to work here. Okay, there you go. All right, folks, I want to tell you about our friends at Renstar Medical Research. Been supporting this program a long time, and we appreciate very much what they do, both as a sponsor and as a stakeholder in downtown Ocala. They have a proven reputation as a high-quality, patient-centered clinical research facility. They bring cutting-edge clinical research trials to Ocala in areas like dementia, Alzheimer's, psoriasis, osteoarthritis, migraine, fibromyalgia, and along with many other conditions that affect us here in our community. Since their inception in 1998, Renstar has participated in more than 700 clinical trials. You can be a part of those if you want to go to renstar.net and find out what you can do. In some cases, you're compensated for time and travel. Renstar continues to partner with prominent pharmaceutical and biomedical companies throughout the medical industry. Renstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. Thanks very much to Ali Peek Wilbur, to David Moulton, Edgar Thompson. Good show. Hope you enjoyed it. Back tomorrow night with the guys from the Orange and Blue Blood show. And by then, I hope maybe we have the Spanish show. Probably not. I got to see a good lawyer. Night, folks.